Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you so much for joining. Well, for anybody that's sort of in one of these truther type communities where you look things up and do some research into anything and you're going to find the inverted truth. It takes a little bit more digging to get at the deeper truths that are many times purposefully hidden from the general population. And with one of those such things, because I typically get questions about my logo from people that sort of have taken that surface meaning of what things can stand for. And they ask me, are you in the Illuminati? Why would you use the all-seeing eye? And for a lot of them, you know, it's a turnoff. They don't even ask. They just leave the channel and never come back, say, oh, you must be some type of Illuminati. But there is a deeper truth. And so I wanted to get into some of the symbols that have been hijacked. And I want to rely heavily on David Percival. I do have his a research paper that he did that I think really sums it up greatly. Because when you look at Hollywood and pop culture, you see a lot of these symbols being used secretly, overtly sometimes. But I think there's a purpose to that. And that's because they've been hijacked and repurposed, whether it's the pyramid or the all-seeing eye, so many others that have been hijacked and used for nefarious purposes. So I really wanted to get into the true meaning of these symbols and how they've been around a lot longer than the people that have hijacked them and are using them for their own purpose in an inverted fashion to represent dark instead of light. Symbols really only have the power that we give them. So it's important that we understand that there is a deeper knowledge. They invert these symbols to give them dark power. In this inverted matrix we find ourselves in, this is the key to this whole thing working. They use the power of the masses to put this power into these symbols in an inverted or perverted fashion. Now, of course, all of these links are in the description box below and extra information if you'd like to look more into this. But I do want to go over some of this stuff. Like we see in this article here by David Percival, The All-Seeing Eye, Sacred Origins of a Hijacked Symbol. Is the all-seeing eye a symbol of divine omniscience or sinister influence? Today it symbolizes control and domination by a shadowy elite, but its original use was quite different. This article traces its use and meaning back to ancient times, when it was a symbol of divine providence, powerfully representing spiritual truth and awakening. Humanity is losing its precious symbology. The all-seeing eye is a powerful esoteric symbol which is widely misunderstood and misused today. It was originally symbolic of a higher spiritual power or God, a watchful caretaker of humanity, or an awakened spiritual part within. But these days, it has quite different associations. Today, the all-seeing eye is more likely to be seen as an Illuminati symbol of control and surveillance by the elites, who to a large degree run the show on this planet at this time. This is because over time, dark, sinister forces have taken over esoteric symbols that for thousands of years were used to convey positive, helpful, uplifting spiritual messages and principles. The all-seeing eye is a prime example of how spiritual symbols have been hijacked and inverted. There has not really been much push to understand the symbol's original meaning or to reclaim it for the spiritual significance it first conveyed. Symbolism has long been used by humanity to communicate ideas which are best crystallized in a compact form. As the well-known saying goes, a picture tells 1,000 words. Esoteric symbols are alive today as they were in the ancient past, but there is much confusion surrounding their usage, history, intent, and meaning. In ordinary life, we use symbols to show at a glance important information such as traffic and road signs, amongst many other symbols, which are widespread and common today. Some other examples are corporate logos and certification statuses. Symbolism is also especially used in the communication of non-physical, spiritual ideas and phenomena and processes. The all-seeing eye is one of the most powerful and widely used and misused symbol of all. In this article, David Percival will trace its use from the earliest of times through the 18th century and show what the symbol originally stood for. In subsequent articles, David Percival actually examines its use from the 18th century Freemasonry onwards, and he shows how it has since been hijacked and misused. Use of the all-seeing eye in ancient cultures. In India, we perhaps find the precursor to what eventually became known as the all-seeing eye in the Rig Veda, a Sanskrit text thought to have been written over 3,000 years ago, and one of the oldest known texts. In it, there are many references to the sun and to other deities as being an eye in heaven, as an eye which reveals creation, or an eye which never closes. One can liken this to being symbolic of a high level of awakened consciousness that advanced spiritual beings have and which an ordinary person can potentially attain. The Hindu god Shiva has 3 eyes. The third eye, or brow chakra eye, is known as the eye of Shiva, possessor of all knowledge, which when opened will destroy anything it sees. Thus, it is a symbol of knowledge which destroys evil and ignorance. This again can be likened to an awakened higher spiritual part of a person which sees the truth of things and can then eliminate within a person's psyche that which is opposite to and blocks divine consciousness from manifesting more. In this way, it is a creative destruction of evil to transform it into higher consciousness. Even in modern times, the eye of Shiva is used in jewelry to give protection against evil to its wearer and to gain wisdom and understanding from the world, from life events, and from the self for positive transformation. In Nepal, in Buddhism, Buddha is referred to as the eye of the world. The eyes are also known as the eyes of wisdom and compassion. Statues of Buddha typically show a dot in the mid-brow to represent the third eye. In ancient Egypt, the all-seeing eye was known as the eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra. Through various myths, they were symbols of protection, healing, and restoration. It is also very interesting to note that the drawing of the eye of Horus very much matches the cross-section of the midbrain, where the thalamus, the pineal, and pituitary glands are situated. The pineal gland is often said to be the third eye and the center of spirituality and of spiritual insight, which can be developed in a person. It's also important to note that much of the information surrounding the people I mentioned from ancient times has also been distorted. So it really takes taking an objective look at these things to understand that there's always a deeper knowledge. There's always been a perversion of the truth. It's just important to take a step back and not to take a religious view at this, because a lot of people that are that look at these things from a religious point of view look at it with lenses on, filtering it into their understanding of how these things were used. Therefore, it will still appear to be evil if you're not looking at this objectively. One such view is Christianity. Yet in the Bible, Jesus says, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." And as I've said before many times in this broadcast, Jesus is my hero. I feel like he was really the archetype of what we all should be trying to attain, where we develop these spiritual gifts and supernatural powers, transfiguring into a light body of sorts and ascending. I feel like Jesus is the archetype for what all of our lives should be like, which is different than what religion will teach. But like I said, there's been an inversion, a perversion on so many levels, on so many different categories and genres, and religion is really no exception to the rule. It just took the message, the focus from his life, and put it on his death, and that's what religion has done. And I think it's important that we follow the teachings of Jesus in this respect, and the actions of Jesus, and not what we've been told to believe. So it really takes an objective look, throw out dogma and doctrine, and look into these things yourself, because it's all there. You know, I really get lots of comments from Christians, but here we see the 16th century Christian painting, and if you see right here, we've got the triangle with the eye and rays of light shining out. this pretty much predates our dollar bill with the all-seeing eye on it. And here are just a few other Christian examples of how the all-seeing eye has been used. As we have seen throughout history, there has been a strong tradition across time, continents, and cultures of using eye symbolism to generally represent a benevolent creator force watching over, helping and protecting humanity, and to represent a spiritual part within. There's actually another great article on the same website I will also link below, but it points out the music industry and how it has misused and abused many esoteric symbols, which many of you already know. But if you like to look more into how it's done with the all-seeing eye, with the pyramid shape, so many different ways that things have been perverted. The covering of the eye, the perversion of the cross, and how it's been inverted many times into an upside-down cross in the industry. The way the pentagram was originally used and how it's been inverted now and misused. So many different things within this article that if you want to look more into that, definitely check it out below. So now I want to break down my logo to show you what it means to me, what was going on in my mind when I created it, and some of the things happened by accident, which I discovered later. So I feel like I was divinely inspired to create this logo. So let's get right into it, because a lot of people see my logo and they think Illuminati, evil, but really it's not. As we see, it's got the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, this sort of X in the middle, but let's point out the background, what we see around in the background first. So in the background, this emblem that you see that is situated in the back. Now I added this part later, but this is what they call the seed of life. It's sort of like the flower of life, but just the center part of it. And that makes up the background. And you see the colors are made up of the heart chakra and up, from the green to the upper violet color. Now let's talk about how On the Fence works into this logo here. Now I did consider doing something nifty like this for a logo, but you can see the top railing of the fence. If you were to sort of look down the fence, it would create a pyramid shape. And I've actually got it like it's bowed or curving upward. So you're like ascending. As you're going down the road, you're ascending to a higher level of understanding. And that's what the curve is. Here's an image to show sort of what I was trying to portray in the pyramid shape while the sides are curved. So then there's the X in the middle. Now there's really nothing too secret about this. This is just a section of a chain link fence. But the center of this X marks the center of the triangle. And at the top we have the apex of the pyramid, or the destination. Now if you create two circles around both of these points, it creates the Vesica Piscis. The Vesica Piscis creates the mandorla. This is the almond shape where they mix. Now this is where they meet in the middle. This is actually where the ichthys comes from, the fish that Christians use to represent being Christian. So you see that it's been used over and over again, this mandorla almond shape. Time and time again, Jesus says he's the doorway, he's the way, the truth, and the life. And so this is my understanding, that having this understanding of being in the intersection of the physical and the spiritual world is where the eye is, where we get the best perspective on life. You gain the best perspective by having one foot in this world and one foot in the spiritual world, or preparing for ascension. So really that's the idea of this whole logo here. There's nothing nefarious intended with this logo at all. It was all coming from a positive point of view, and to say I shouldn't use it because it's been hijacked is really defeating the purpose, because my job here, I feel, is to transmute things that were intended for evil into something that is surrounded in love and light and positivity. So that is a quick view of some symbols and symbolism and how it's been used and misused, and what my logo is all about. So with that, I will leave you guys, and lots of love and light to each and every one of you. Have a good one. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.